Risers, I am the Black Renegade Rising. I am simply a maven looking for my haven on the continent. Political unrest that we are currently experiencing since the election of you-know-who, that has culminated in the attack on democracy at the Capitol last week. The white supremacist rage that has been displayed will not end there, or probably anywhere for that matter. Therefore, melanated individuals, melanated family, we need to be prepared. And what I mean by that is we need to have an exit plan and we need to be ready to execute it. And what do I mean by exit plan? I mean you need to think about life somewhere else. Now's the time to start planning, start saving, start researching, look at airfare, go ahead and get your passports as well. Passports for children 17 and under are good for 5 years. Your exit plan may be a long-term plan in which you plan on leaving in 6 years. I would suggest still going ahead and getting your passports now and renewing them if you have to. You would hate to need it and not be able to get it. Within this previous or the current administration, they did actually cut off passport renewals and passport applications for a little bit. And that is something you need to be aware of. Anytime a country stops allowing their citizens to apply and receive a passport, just lets you know there may be more things coming. Even though we built this place, it is not for us. They don't want us here. And really, since our consciousness has been raised, a lot of us realize that there are a number of places other than here in which we can live out a better life, a better quality of life, and in particular give our children that sense of security and give them a chance to actually thrive as well. Another thing that people tend to forget is it is important to be able to live out your full humanity. No one wants to be a shell or a caricature of what others want you to be. So with that, melanated individuals and my melanated risers, or my renegade risers, let's go ahead and talk about the pros and cons, and I'm going to go ahead and do this quickly. Number one is you'll see a sea of melanin staring right back at ya. No, I can't sing, and I know that was a bit corny, but really, it is a wonderful joy to be in a place in which everyone has melanin. You are in a country in which everyone is melanated, including the president. Yes, and that is what you'll experience on the continent. So again, the information I'm giving you, the pros and the cons, are pretty much about most of the African countries, with the exception of the northern states. States in this respect also mean countries, like Egypt, Libya, Morocco, Algeria, and there's a few others. But overall, this is what you will experience, that sea of melanated individuals being right there. It not only is it great, it gives you a sense of belonging, even if you don't feel like you necessarily have anything in common with individuals there. But it's just a wonderful thing being able to stare right back at other people who are staring at you and having that connection. Another thing is you will not be a minority and you will not be targeted because of your race. Imagine that. It's a great feeling, I just want you to know, and it's worth experiencing, even if you just go visit before you decide what you really want to do. Another thing to note is that your mental health will improve. Yes. And for those of us who suffer from mental health issues, it's just one less thing you have to worry about. Number two, the cost of living. Housing will be cheaper in most places, as well as food costs. And with that stated, of course, when you're in the larger cities, Lagos, Accra, Johannesburg, housing prices can roughly be about what you pay here. But the reality is, in most African countries, you are going to have a variety of housing options, whether you're buying, leasing, renting, what have you. So you'll be able to find something that's usually in a decent price range that is less than what you're paying here. And again, food costs are going to be a lot less And what that also equals is cha-ching. You can lose weight if that's your goal. And everybody knows there's a lot less processed foods to pick from as well. There's less restaurants. Even though you do still have a lot of options, people tend to eat out a lot less, so by nature you will get healthier. Number 3, healthier lifestyle. And again, that goes back to less fast food, more home cooked foods, as well as in a lot of places you'll have the ability to walk more, to just get some physical activity in your daily lifestyle. You'll also have much better weather in a lot of places. You're going to have lots of opportunities. Okay, so number 5, starting a business is much easier within the continent in most places. Regulations are either non-existent or much more lax than they are in the United States, as well as for most people, you're going to need less capital to start up that business. So there is no reason why you cannot become an entrepreneur. You get a chance to help define your destiny in a way that is pretty much stamped out of you here in the United States, or these divided states. Number 6, you are surrounded by 53 other countries. There are 54 countries in Africa, but if you're in one, you've got 53 other countries that you can explore that are much closer when you're in Africa than they are if you're in the United States of America, or in Europe or Asia for that matter, or Latin America. Number 7, child friendly. Many of the countries are very child friendly. People are used to seeing children in many places. Many of the countries are very family oriented, so that is also a nice touch, especially if you're like me and traveling with a small child. And number 8, just in case I haven't said it before, melanated landscapes filled with people who look like you and me too. Okay, again, my corny singing. And number 9, there are lots of languages, there's a lot of culture, and a lot of history. Before most people even consider when history began, Africa was moving and grooving. So it is filled with knowledge and information for those who are interested. So let's go ahead and talk about the cons. We're going to do this quickly. Number 1 is airfare. Airfare to the continent is still, for whatever reason, much more costly than it is if you were going to Europe, and sometimes even Asia or the Middle East, or Latin America, depending. And that can sometimes be a thing. But again, if you're going to remove yourself from what's going on here to give yourself and your children and your family a better life and quality of life, then the airfare is just one of the many things that you're just going to have to deal with. Number 2 is the lack of infrastructure. Yes, most countries have roads and highways and the likes, but the level of infrastructure is not up to what we would consider it in the States or in most Western world countries in Europe. So that can take a little bit of getting used to, but if you, like me, have been to third world countries before, then it doesn't surprise me as much, but for some people it can take a bit of getting used to. Number 3 is reliable utilities. Reliable utilities is not a strong suit or point in most African countries. And with that stated, there are a number of newer housing developments and apartment developments that have solar power generators that kick on if and when the grid goes down. So there are a number of places you can find to live that have already gone ahead and taken care of that issue of reliable utilities for you. Of course, it comes at a cost, but some of it, of course, is very affordable, and especially in Ghana. I've heard of a number of places, and if I don't forget, I'll try to link them below. Number 4, Wi-Fi can be a bit spotty in places, and so that's something you'll want to consider when moving somewhere. For some people, you may be able to just go ahead and get a Wi-Fi card and bring it with you, and that can go ahead and solve those issues. Number 5, visas. Visas. Even though it's simply paperwork, it can be confusing to complete, and especially if it's a visa process that must be taken care of before you arrive. Some countries will allow you visas on arrival, which is a little bit easier to do, and other countries require that you take care of that before you even get on a plane. So for visas, you'll definitely want to research a little bit more, and I will list the State Department's website below to go ahead and help some of you begin the navigation process. And number 6, phone a friend. Maybe that's not really the right way to describe it, but a number of people will tell you that moving to the continent or even visiting the continent, it is good to have connections. What that means is knowing someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone who's reliable, who can help you navigate the system. And what that means is, like I mentioned, the infrastructure is not the same as in the United States or most parts of Western Europe. And what that means is, for example, the bus schedule. If you want to go from here to there, you may not be able to go online and find a bus schedule. Figuring out how to take a taxi and other things may not be as obvious as it would be in the United States, for example. There's not a lot of tourist infrastructure in most places. South Africa and parts of Ghana are the exception. But, you know, figuring out how to get things taken care of can also be a bit complicated. Like, how do you get your utilities turned on? Where do you go to do this? Where do you go to do that? And that is why a lot of times people will suggest that you have friends or contact. And I know that is not the easiest thing to do, which is why I list this as a con as opposed to a pro. It can be a pro if you are able to make friends, because voila, you're going to have people who are going to be willing to help you. They'll also help you in the markets when it comes to food shopping so that you're not paying too much. Because again, food costs are relatively low compared to the United States and most of Western Europe. And again, right now, I'm going to go ahead and stop for 5 seconds as I do a recap. And I'm just listing up on the board here the pros and now the cons of moving to the continent. And again, thank you so much for your time. I am the Black Renegade Rising. I am simply a maven looking for my haven on the continent. Thank you so much for your time, and stay tuned, risers. We've got more planned. Thank you.